Hey guys, thanks for joining me. I'm Lindsay Rainwater, and today I wanted to talk about the reclamation of magic. Magic is a very vague term for a lot of people. Magic can mean a lot of different things, but yet magic is a very provocative word. It's something that when someone hears the word magic, there is usually a visceral response to it and what they think of when they think of magic. This could mean actual magic, such as casting spells, all of that sort of thing. It could also just mean following your heart and doing the things that you are particularly good at, which in and of itself can be a form of magic and casting. And I want to talk to people about reclaiming magic in today's society. And this goes far beyond this weird commercialized witchcraft that we're seeing hitting store shelves, which is highly distressing to me. And I will tell you why. But the reclamation of magic is crucial for women to be able to find their place in the world again. Because let's be honest, guys, we've really lost that. We've lost sight of who we are, what we're capable of. Once upon a time, we were the wise women, we were the guides, we were the healers, we were so many things. We were balanced with the male and female, the masculine, the feminine, and we were working with the men in our tribes and our cities and our cultures to create something good. And somewhere along the line, that balance was lost. And women were told to stop being magical. Where exactly this happened, we can't quite seem to be able to pin this down. But let's just say it has been a very, very long time in the making. And it has been a damn shame. Because right now we can look around the world and we can say, this is not right. This is disturbing what is going on in the world. And as much as I used to be that person who was like, no, I don't want to talk about the patriarchy. I don't want to go there. That's stupid. I'm going to be that person at this point because I have looked around and gone, what in the heck have we done to this world, to our societies, to our cultures? We are in a man-run society. And we see kind of where it's gotten us. There is definitely something to be said for the balancing of energies. And for so long, through so much of the world, women were carriers of magic. We were those who birthed magic into the world. We were the creators. We were the manifestors. We were those who brought new things. The world itself is considered to be a feminine. You have Mother Earth, you have Gaia. So, where along the line did we lose this? And more importantly, how do we get it back? Because there's so many points that you can look back on in history. And it goes everywhere from the Bible that, obviously Eve was the one who listened to the serpent and took the apple, all the way to the writings that implied that Eve was not even the first, that Lilith was the first. And Lilith was so full of herself that she almost it was like the fall of woman in that case, coming even before Eve caused the fall of man. And the beer makers being, what's the word I'm looking for? Branded as witches and driven out of business. And once upon a time, women were the healers. And now, if you look at the medical industry, it is almost entirely dominated by men. This is changing. The world is changing. But the fact of the matter is, along the line, certain people, mostly men, got very uncomfortable with our magic. They decided that we were too unpredictable. We were too powerful. And this was a problem because when someone is unpredictable, you cannot control them. And so our beliefs were smashed. Our sisterhoods were disbanded. We were no longer allowed to have our groups of women because if groups of women were getting together, obviously witchcraft was being performed and this was a coven and we couldn't have that. So we have been carefully dissected as sisterhoods. We have been individualized, but not in a positive way. It's not in a way where the individual is allowed to grab onto her own magic and run with it. It is in a way of, we are going to isolate you so that we can make sure you're not getting into trouble. So how do we reclaim that? And how do we prevent it from becoming something diluted? Because honestly, witchcraft is a trend right now. It comes and goes. I know this. I was a early teen the last time that I would say that witchcraft was kind of a trendy thing. And I had a couple friends who went out and they got the books, and one of them was like super open about it with her parents, like, "Oh yeah, I'm a witch and nobody cares." And her parents were kind of like, "Oh, Teehee, you're cute." And I had another friend who was hiding these books in between her mattress and box springs and reading them by flashlight at night. And if her parents came in and were like, "Turn your flashlight off, what are you reading?" she would literally come up with almost anything else but, "Oh, it's a book of spells." Because this is shameful, because this was problematic, because this was something dirty. But yet, how many of us didn't pretend to be a witch at some point? How many of us didn't have one Halloween where we went as a witch? Honestly, I am one of those people. I was raised in a Christian household, and being a witch for Halloween was absolutely forbidden, which I didn't even realize until many years later, that we just didn't do things like that. I went as a dinosaur and a rock star and many, many other really cool things, but never a witch. But many girls go as a witch for some Halloween or other. Many girls play these games with their friends, which I definitely did, of pretending to be witches or priestesses or some other thing. And while it's super fun and it was somewhere that we almost wanted to crawl into and live because it felt so magical and so powerful, it was also kind of done, on the other side of the garden shed, because we didn't want our parents to hear us doing that, because what would they think? And now that we're adults, it's kind of like they probably wouldn't have thought much of anything, but we never knew, because we were told, especially if we came from a religious background, that this was bad. Witchcraft was bad. Witchcraft is dangerous. Witchcraft will get you into trouble. The magic has been bred out of us for generations. But here's the flaw in that plan. Magic is inherent. Magic is not something that you necessarily learn. Magic is something that you create. Magic is something that you foster, that you incubate, and you bring forth into the world from somewhere within you. People say everyone is born special, everyone is born psychic, everyone is born gifted. I do agree with this. There are different levels of it. I equate it to athletic ability. Everyone has some kind of athletic ability. What you are good at will vary from person to person, and whether you're good enough to go pro will vary from person to person greatly. That is how I see magic. Everyone is born with some level of it, though. And unlike a physical limitation or a physical capability, a magical limitation or capability can almost always be overcome. It's really more in your head. What do you think you are capable of? What do you think is going to stop you from going to the next level? There is not actually a physical impediment keeping you from that next level. But everyone is born magical, and oh my God, has this been tricky for the church and the powers that be to deal with. Because when you can't breed it out of people, when you cannot literally take their magic away from them by bringing them up in a certain belief system for generation after generation, what do? You beat it out of them. That's really the next course of action. You scare it out of them. You tell them hellfire and brimstone and you're a bad person if you know things, hear things, create things that people should not be able to create. They tell you what you should be able to do and what you should not be able to do. And when you dare to defy those boundaries that are so carefully set for you by the people in power, all of a sudden, you're a problem. You're a witch. And we know in the past what has happened to witches. There's really no in between, it seems. You were either revered and respected and loved for all of your abilities and knowledge and powers, or you were hated, feared, and killed at any opportunity. Many, many of us are running around with the scars of those past lives, whether they are our own past lives or whether they are ancestral wounds that have been passed down to us. And there is a reason why these things are resurging. There is a reason why you have the shirts that say, we're the granddaughters of the witches you couldn't burn, things like that, because the world is calling for this at this time. The world needs us to step up, reclaim our magic, and be willing to kind of carry the burden of being the front line of weirdos. And those who are kind of stepping into this now are almost not the front line anymore. There are people who have come before us who are blazing those paths. And so we're having a little easier time of it. But as we can see, and as I mentioned, we have a little bit of a problem going the other direction now. Because enough people are stepping up and stepping into their magic and going, you know what? This whole religious doctrine doesn't really make sense. You telling me I can't be magical when it is something that is inherently a part of me does not make sense. There's enough people stepping up into that space that the powers that be, not the church specifically, but other powers that be, are going the other direction with it and going, okay, well, let's turn it into such a fad that nobody takes it seriously. So the other side of it is places such as a very popular outlet store, I shouldn't call it outlet store, retail store that sells bath bombs. I'm not going to call them by name because I don't even know what that might do. But they sell a lot of bath bombs, they sell a lot of body products, I'm sure you've heard of them, and they're coming out with starter witch kits. And this absolutely blew my mind because I'm sure on some level they think that they're doing something cool. They think that they're doing something that's going to liberate women and allow them to be their witchy selves. What they are actually doing is, number one, making money off of a trend, which is a lifestyle for people. This is a belief system. It's a lifestyle. It's a doctrine. And they are diluting the entire idea of witchcraft. The number of people who are going to buy these kits, starter witch kits, are going to probably be astronomical. They're probably going to make an insane amount of money off of this. But for every 10 people who buys that kit, how many of them do you think are actually going to pick up a regular, consistent magical practice in their life? How many of them are going to run with that identification and turn it into something powerful in their lives? My guess is very, very few. Because there are actually very few people out there who will grab the moniker of witch, who will grab the idea of magic and actually run with it. Many people think it's a good idea. Many people think that it's cool and it's trendy and it makes them sound badass, but the number of people who actually devote themselves to it is relatively small. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. It has to be something that calls to you. It has to be something you love and that you feel passionately about. But we are reaching this very strange time where, on one hand, it's trendy and people are willing to make money off of it. But on the other hand, we are still being repressed. We are still being told, no, don't do that. That's making everyone uncomfortable. And if you do enough of that, you're going to start causing problems for us because we are still living in a patriarchal system that is run by big religion. And so we are in this very awkward time. This is a good thing and a bad thing because every age of change comes with a rough patch where nobody's quite sure what's going on. And I feel like we're in that place right now, which is unfortunate. But at the same time, if we can ride it out, we are going to start seeing some massive changes in the world. And if we, on an individual basis, choose to reclaim our magic, things are going to start happening in our lives that are going to go far beyond what we would call coincidence, which there is no such thing. I call them synchronicities. Synchronicities are going to start coming together and stacking and turning into landslides of power and information and cooperation that are going to start eliciting some very impressive changes in this world. I really do believe that. But we have to be willing to reclaim it. We have to be willing to say, yes, I am a magical being. And yes, I know that this power structure that we are living in has been standing for far too long. And for a lot of us, it means looking at that and going, I don't know how I'm going to bring that down to a more manageable size. I don't know how I'm going to go around it or under it. I don't know who I am to be in the face of that, but I'm willing to stand here anyway. And to do that is to open up amazing doors, not only for yourself, but for the women who will come behind you. Reclaiming our magic is part of changing the world. There's no other way to put it. And if we're willing to do that, we start sending a very, very powerful message that we're tired of the way things are. And this is not writing to your senator. This is not signing a form that gets sent to someone. This is taking pure, unadulterated responsibility for your own thoughts and your own actions and your own decisions on how you interact with the world and making those real. So I'm curious, how are you going to reclaim your magic? How are you going to say, I'm ready to be that grain of sand that is going to start the landslide that is going to elicit true change in this world? How are you going to do that? Do you have a support system? How are you going to recreate the coven, the tribe, those groups of women who were told, stop getting together because we don't trust what you're doing? It's not as easy as it sounds, but it's also not as hard as they've made it seem either. And it's also not something that they can stop us doing at this point. Claiming your magic is loving yourself. Saying, I am a magical being. I am a queen of manifesting. I am a mistress of sigelcraft in my case. I am capable of creating a field of energy that is not only going to change my world, but the entire world around me is such a powerful move. And that's all you have to do to reclaim your magic and then stick with it. That's it. It's powerful. It's simple. It is not easy necessarily, but it is simple and it is powerful. And that, ladies and witches, is what is actually going to elicit some change in this crazy, backwards, upside down world that we're living in. I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to hear what you think of this. I would love to hear how you are reclaiming your own magic day by day. And if you would like support with this, I am rolling out the Unfuck Your Universe program. It is for women who want to deep dive into what is going on in their heads and their hearts and their souls, find their inner bad bitch, bring her out, sigil the shit out of their life, and bring in all the magic to change the landscape of your existence, and who wants support in doing that, and someone who's done the same in her own life. So I would love to hear from you guys. Please PM me. Please subscribe. If you are not following me over on Patreon, I would greatly appreciate your support. Just $1 a month really helps me keep things going and moving forward. That is patreon.com, Lindsay Rainwater. And please also come over to my Facebook group, Tempest Rising. And I will talk to you guys very, very soon.